Actually, and even though I've been banging on about how I think, writing a multi-stranded novel is really hard, being completely honest, I do think there's a part of me that does it because I find it easier, which is kind of contradicting myself entirely. But what I found recently, whenever I read a book that just stays with one character from page 1 until page 350, and you stay with them the whole time, I just think it's an absolute feat that you don't get bored, you know what I mean? And that you aren't crying out for an alternative insight or a subplot or whatever. So I think writers that do manage to write entire books dedicated to one person and keep the reader engaged and involved from start to finish, that terrifies me as a prospect. I've made a silent pact with myself that book number 6 will be that. But it scares the crap out of me because I have no idea how I'm going to make it interesting for the whole thing, but we'll worry about that a little later. So even though technically it's difficult to negotiate the balance between multiple strands, I do think the one thing you're not going to risk is the reader getting bored, because you're constantly going to give them a new piece of plot or a new voice or a new point of view. The other just scares the hell out of me. God, has anything got easier? No, I do think, and this is something that we might talk about a bit more, but my previous 3 novels were very, very different from Ninefolds. Ninefolds technically is my 4th book, but it feels in many ways like a first novel, and over here in America technically it is my first novel. But my previous books, they were very much what we would refer to as kind of commercial women's fiction, or what some people would call chick lit with their kind of snobby little scowl. But whatever. When I decided that I did want to attempt to write a book that was more historical, that was more research-based, that was more literary, whatever that means, one of the things I did is I decided I would do a creative writing master's. I took a year to just play and to just try different things and figure out what I was doing, find this new voice, or whatever you want to call it. The problem was I knew so clearly what I didn't want to write anymore, but I didn't know what I did want to write, that I basically spent a year producing totally pretentious, impenetrable, wannabe Beckettian nonsense, because I was so I don't want to be a chick lit writer anymore, that I would write these just totally bizarre, painful things that no one wanted to read. A girl in my class took me aside and was like, I think you have anger issues, which is hilarious because I definitely didn't, but my stuff was so try hard that's obviously the impression that it gave off. But actually, ironically, by the time I was writing Ninefolds and when I was working on it with my editor and stuff, you kind of come full circle, because you realize no matter what genre you're writing for, no matter what, oh my God, is that me? I'm so sorry. That is most embarrassing. I apologize. I realize that, is that completely off? It is. I'm so sorry. No matter what genre you're writing for, no matter what audience, what readership, the same principle apply. Every novel, you want characters that readers are going to connect with. You want there to be a certain amount of plot. The debate will always rage on as to how much plot a novel actually needs, but everyone likes a good story. You will want to be moved, you will want to be surprised, you will want to learn something, as well as recognize things that are familiar. So I think that actually, whether I was writing a book about 18-year-olds coming of age in Dublin, or whether I was writing about a mute boy in a mental institution in Dublin, those things still applied. So that's kind of the biggest realization that I've had over the course of this kind of change in direction, is that actually good novels and good writing kind of follow the same principles no matter what genre you are endeavoring to write.